Hello, welcome to a LaTeX tutorial on creating lists, specifically unordered, ordered, descriptive, and nested lists, and how to customize the labels. Now, I'm going to use the same document that I've been using in previous tutorials, and so the document is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. So let's switch to the editor, and this is the top of the editor, or the beginning. And so let's scroll to the bottom and start adding information about lists. And as in previous videos, I have created these in ChatGPT to make it a little easier for me. So here I have the next section, which is LaTeX lists, and I add a label, which we covered in a previous video. If I ever want to refer to this section, and the naming convention is, SEC colon. And then, of course, I have the percent symbol, which is how you create comments in LaTeX. And this right here is, in my opinion, good advice to add something before sections, because sometimes this document can grow pretty extensively. And this just explains that we're going to cover unordered, ordered, descriptive, nested, and how to customize labels. So in the first section, we will look at unordered lists, and I'm copying and pasting it from another window here. So I'm creating a subsection within this bigger section. And notice I put like a little mark for a subsection and a big mark for a section, and this is a subsection. I also label it, and the convention is subsec, and that signifies that this label is for the subsection. So if I refer to this, it would put the appropriate number or the subsection. So here to create an unordered list, we use the command itemize. And here's an example right here. Here's the code. We say begin itemize and end itemize. That's how you start and begin a list. And then the bullet points are just /item and then the text that goes with it. Now the verbatim, I have a begin and end verbatim because I want to list this specific code in the document without it recognizing it as code, right? The / in LaTeX means something, has purpose. And then whatever's after it, it recognizes it. And I want to shut that off with the verbatim. And then this here is how I render it. So it's exactly the same code, but now it's rendered. And we'll see this in a second. But one other subtle point that I want to point out is I have a subsection, and then I start creating text. And then this verbatim is part of that paragraph environment. And whenever I have add a space and then more text, LaTeX thinks it's another paragraph, so it tries to indent it. And it kind of looks weird, so I tell it to not indent it. Okay, so let's run this. So I go Control Enter, and that runs it. Now I switch to the PDF portion, and this is it. And so, what's interesting, look at this. So here's the section, LaTeX list, and here's the text that I created. But the way LaTeX does graphics, it does some sort of internal calculation and then tries to put these graphs in the best spot. And notice that here we're referring to different figures. And so wherever they are, it refers to them correctly. But it decided to put the figure right here between the sections. So here's the subsection, right? 4.1, unordered list. This is the verbatim piece of that, and it just illustrating what the commands are. And then it renders this here because I just used the commands. And note that this is the text that had a gap between it and the previous text. And so it thinks it's a new command. And what it would have done is it indents that, and it made it kind of look weird. So I said no indent. So this is it. So this is and use the itemize, so begin and end, and it creates these bullet points. So actually I can just double click anywhere in the PDF and it takes me to that part of the editor. So I just double click. Well, now let's look at what's called an ordered list, and that's the function enumerate. Let me copy and paste the text in. And so I create another subsection. So this will be 4.2 and ordered list with enumerate. And enumerate it creates a numbered list. There's an ordering to the list. And again, I use the verbatim to put these commands into the document itself without running. And then this is how we render it. So there's a begin and end enumerate. And then for each item, it's not a bullet point, but each number, then we use the item command. But since it's enumerate, it's not a bullet, it's a number. So let's render this and switch to the PDF. And then, of course, this is the unordered list, and this is the ordered list with enumerate. Uh-oh, I double clicked, so it went to it. Dang it. Okay, so going back. So notice that the list is 1, 2, 3, etc. And then that's because we used the enumerate, and then we had items within it. Now let's go to this section. So I'll double click and it takes you to it. And let's use what's called a descriptive list. And so I'm copying the code from another window. I put it here. Notice that I highlight that it's a subsection, and it's a descriptive list, and it's the description. And so here's the command. So I use the verbatim, so that, of course, can be put in the PDF. But it's the same thing. We say begin description, end description, and we use the item command for the individual items. But whatever we put in these square brackets is bolded, and then we put a description of what has been bolded after it. And so if we look at the exact commands, it's this. There's a begin and end description, and we have item apple, and then describe it, banana, cherry, describe it. And let's run this and then go to the PDF to look at what it generates. So this is descriptive list. And these commands render the following. And so that apple is bolded. And sometimes you might put like a colon there, apple colon, and then it's description. But sometimes you don't. And so apple and sweet. And so this is another list within Latex that can be used pretty effectively. So next, let's go back to the editor and let's look at nested list. So we have a main list and then a sublist. Okay, so let's copy this in. And so I create a subsection called nested list. And here we're going to use a nested list with enumerate. Now, enumerate means that it's an ordered list. And so these will have numbers associated. So we have a begin enumerate and end enumerate. And then these item statements here correspond to that first level of, not bullet points, but ordered list points. And then if we want to have a sub list with after the first list, item, then we create another begin and end enumerate, which then these become the second level of bullet points for this list. So this is the main bullet point, this is a sub, and there's only one main item, and then there's a sub. So let's notice I didn't use the verbatim because it's starting to be too long, so I didn't want to do it. So let's render it. So I hit Control Enter, switch to it. So this is the descriptive, and let's scroll down, and this is nested list. And with enumerate, enumerate means that it's an ordered list. So there's the first, second, and third main, and then within each, it knows to use different notation and etc. And you can actually have third level, so you can have bullet points within this first, the next level. So let's go back, and now let's use a nested list using itemized. Okay, so let's copy that, go back to the code, paste. So we're still in the nested list section, but we're using itemized. And remember, itemized is an unordered list. So we begin and end itemized, and then we have the main bullet points, and then we use begin and end itemized again. So this is the second level, but then we can use begin itemized again to create a third level. And here we just have two levels, the main and the next level. So I'll hit Control Enter, and we'll go to this piece of the document. So this is the nested list using itemized. So we have the first main level, and then within that main level, there's 3 bullet points. But then within item 2, there's 2 bullet points, and notice that it automatically creates different symbols for the points. And the second one just had 1 item. Okay, so let's go back to the main document, and we're going to mix itemize and enumerate and see what happens with that. So copy and paste. So here we're going to mix itemize and enumerate. So we begin the list with itemized, so it's an unordered list, but then within the first bullet point, we create an enumerated list, which is an ordered list, and then we do that, etc. So these main bullet points are itemized, so they're unordered, but within each of those, we create a ordered list. And I'm not for sure when this would, when you would use something like this in a document. I'm just showing you the functionality of it. So let's hit Control Enter to run the code. Let's switch to the code. So here we're mixing itemize and enumerate. So remember, the first level was itemized, so it's unordered. Oh, I double clicked it. Right, and then within each unordered bullet point, we have an ordered list, and then it just continues. So let's go back to the document, and then this is the last piece that we're going to cover, and that's how to change the bullet points. And so let's change the list labels. Now this is changing the list labels within Latex, or sort of base Latex. Now there are packages that give you immense power with lists, and we're not going to cover this because it's an introductory list. Maybe in a later video we will, but now this is kind of the easy way to change the list. So here it's another subsection, so it'll get the appropriate numbering. Changing lists. I don't have a label for this section, and this is just to illustrate. There's probably a better way to use another package for this, but this works and it's easy. So we create an unordered list, and I want the labels to be A, B, and C in this unordered list. And so I'll run that in a second, but I also want to show you another little trick to create a fake header for your list. So we begin itemized, which is an unordered list, and we end it, of course, and we have 3 items. But the first one, I use square brackets with nothing in the middle, so it creates no label. It's actually looks like it's not even there, but it creates space for that first bullet point, which is unlabeled. But I use text. I say, underline, and then I say header for this list. And it's kind of a cheap and dirty way, or quick way, to create a label. So let's run this and then Control Enter. Let's switch to the PDF. And here's notice the section is appropriately labeled, and we're changing. And we used an unordered list, but we changed the labels to ABC in that. And then this was the trick to create like a little header for that table. So this is the first item, but I used square brackets with nothing in it. So it puts nothing there as the label. And then as the text, I underline it, and it kind of looks like a header for this table. Okay, well, that's all I have for this video, and hope you enjoyed it. I sure did.